So another week of UFC. This weekend, it's a fight night in San Diego, California. Dominick Cruz versus Chito Vera. Two top bantamweights go at it this Saturday night. Is a title shot on the line? I mean, honestly, I doubt it with some more bantamweight or big bantamweight fights in the horizon, like Merab Dvalishvili taking on Jose Aldo and Sean O'Malley fighting Petr Yan. I just don't think the winner of this fight can fight for a title next. We'll see how it goes again with TJ Dillashaw and Aljamain Sterling again fighting for the World Championship in a month. We'll see how it goes. That's your main event. Co-main event, David Onama takes on a Landwehr. Bruno Silva's back and he's taking on GM3 Gerald Meerschaert. And my guy, the Picasso of MMA, Ode Osbourne, is on the prelims as well. You know, we always get excited for an Ode Osbourne fight, one of my favorite fighters in the roster. So we've got 13 fights on this card. But real quick, taking a look at last week's fight card, of course, the tough finale, Santos and Jamal Hill in the main event. We went 7-3. I mean, a pretty solid night, honestly. The fights we got wrong, I mean, did anyone see Mo Usman winning? I mean, I didn't. I didn't think Jeff Neal was going to win either. And then Mayra Bueno Silva beat Stephanie Egger. But other than that, we got Ozil Shashek first round knockout right around the dot. I mean, obviously, he was fighting Sam Alvey. Spivak second round TKO. I got Hill by knockout. Had a pretty good night. Again, 7-3. So on to this week's card. And folks, if you haven't yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more UFC here on the channel. We will have our Bellator and PFL predictions coming out in a couple days as well, probably tomorrow. So the first two fights in this card are two fights I've already, broke down here on the channel. The first one being Ariane Lipski and Priscilla Cachoeira, and the second one being Jason Witt and Josh Quinlan. So I'll just roll those two prediction videos, and then we'll get on to the rest of the card, starting with Youssef Zalal and Damone Blackshear. So next up at flyweight, we have got Ariane Lipski taking on the zombie girl, Priscilla Cachoeira. For Priscilla Cachoeira, okay, so she totally lost her last fight. I don't want to hear any arguments. That fight that's robbery of the year so far. Jeon Kim wins that fight. Now, Jeon Kim just lost to Jocelyn Edwards, which we got right on the dot. But anyways, that was ridiculous. Jeon Kim won that fight. I mean, Cachoeira gets outstruck by 70 in that fight. Don't get me wrong. It's a good fight. It's back and forth. It's a really good one. It wins fight of the night for a good reason. But, I mean, my goodness. Like, what are we doing there? Like, I don't know what fight the judges were watching, but Jeon Kim won that one. And they gave it to Priscilla Cachoeira. Okay, and Cachoeira's wins in the UFC have been bad fighters. They just have, other than Jeon Kim. And she only has got two. But it's a win over Shannon Dobson, who's no longer in the UFC. She knocks her out in the first round of 40 seconds, which she's supposed to do. And then it's a win over Gina Mazzani, who's now, I don't think, in the UFC anymore either. She finishes her in the second round. Mazzani says no mas. Cachoeira wins the fight. You look at her losses. She gets beat down by Valentina Shevchenko. Great, right? I mean, she gets beat by Molly McCann. She gets beat by Luana Carolina, where she gets dropped in the fight, and then she loses to Jillian Robertson in a fight where she got subbed by Robertson. She tries to rake Robertson's eye out as well. While she's in the choke, she still loses the fight in the first round. I mean, I think you're going to see a striking affair with her and Lipski. Lipski doesn't usually try to involve herself in a grappling affair. Cachoeira does not really shoot takedowns. You're going to see a striking fight. And Cachoeira's got power, yes. But Cachoeira's got power against fighters who just don't really match up with her strike for strike. And Lipski is going to be a fighter that will stay in there, and she will hang with Priscilla Cachoeira, and she's not going to get knocked out by one big shot that Cachoeira will throw, because Cachoeira, again, does have heavy hands. But I think Lipski's able to slip a lot of those. I mean, Cachoeira is a little bit predictable when she does throw her big power shots. You're going to see when she is loading up and when she's going to throw a big strike. Lipski's going to see that. I think Lipski will pick her apart on the feet. I think on the ground, Lipski's got an advantage. Of course, she has the big knee bar win that did win her submission of the year, or at least it was nominated for, when she beat Luana Carolina. And if you want to play MMA math, okay, Lipski beat Carolina and Cachoeira lost to Carolina. Still, though, I think you're going to see a striking fight. I think Lipski's so much better on the feet than Cachoeira does. She had 2 knockdowns in her last win over Mendy Boom. I know she lost to De La Rosa and lost to Shevchenko, but then she beat Carolina, of course, with the knee bar, and she beat Isabella De Pauda, and of course, she knocks her down in that fight as well, winning it by decision. Lipski is, I wouldn't say levels ahead of Priscilla Cachoeira, but she's just better all around than Cachoeira on the feet. She's got quicker hands. She's more technical on the feet. I don't think she'll have too many problems as long as, again, she is able to get out the way of Cachoeira's big shots, and Cachoeira will just wing out big shots and hope one lands. As long as she's able to avoid more of them than what Jeon Kim did, Lipski will win this one. She'll pick her apart on the feet. I got Ariane Lipski to win this one by unanimous decision. So next up, we've got Jason Witt taking on Josh Quinlan. For Jason Witt, it's been a mixed bag of results so far in the UFC. It's been wins and losses being traded. Comes in, loses to Takashi Sato. Sato gets him early in that fight, knocks him down, it finishes him on the ground, TKO win. Then Jason Witt gets Cole Williams, who honestly, I kind of forgot was in the UFC. I'll keep it a buck with you. I forgot this dude was even in the promotion. Anyways, Jason Witt goes in there. He subs him in the second round. Okay, it's what he's supposed to do against a guy like Cole Williams. Then he loses to Matt Semmelsberger. Some of the Jedi catches him in the first round, 16-second knockout. And then he beats Bryan Barberena, which looking back at it now is a great win because Bryan Barberena is now coming off a win over Robbie Lawler in his last fight. It's a back and forth fight. Jason Witt's coming there, he brings the wrestling. He's able to take down Barberena 8 times in that fight. He wins it. And then after that, Jason Witt goes in, he loses to Phil Rowe, gets knocked out in the second round. Okay. So Jason Witt's going to be taking on a guy now in Josh Quinlan, though, who is going to go and he is going to push a pace on him. Josh Quinlan is going to go in there and he is going to try to knock him out immediately. I mean, this guy's got a 100% finish rate so far in his professional career. He's taken on guys in LFA. That's been the main promotion he has been at. But he gets a shot in the Contender Series where he beats Logan Urban in the fight. He knocks him out in 47 seconds. Quinlan's supposed to take on Darren Weeks in that fight. Of course, now UFC fighter Darren Weeks. And Quinlan is, again, just kind of blitzing Urban early in the fight, and he eventually finishes him in the first round. Now, that fight has now been overturned to a no contest because Quinlan tested positive for drosterone, an anabolic steroid last year, so he's suspended 9 months and fined $800, which is like half his fight purse. I'm just kidding, but kind of is his fight purse. Anyway, he'll be making a nice $12K to show, $12K to win, coming off that Contender Series check. Anyways, so that is kind of relevant, I do think, though. It is a steroid, and that was Quinlan's last fight. Now he's taking on Witt, and I mean, Quinlan's going to have to bring his wrestling shoes in this fight, because I think if Jason Witt's going to win this fight, he's going to have to try to wrestle Josh Quinlan. Because you look at Witt's both wins in the UFC, it's been a submission win over Cole Williams, where he was able to execute takedowns, get the takedowns, and take him down. That's very repetitive, but still, he's able to bring down Cole Williams in their fight on Halloween in 2020. And then Barberena was winning on the feet. Witt was staying competitive to the point where he could, get into shooting range and take him down. And even the fight that Witt had against Phil Rowe, in a loss, Jason Witt controls Phil Rowe in that first round. It is a wrestling match in that first round that Jason Witt is winning until he's not, after Phil Rowe gets back up to his feet in the second round and knocks him out. So that's how Jason Witt fights. Is he able to do that against Josh Quinlan? I think there's a 100% chance he's able to do that. I think a lot of people are taking Quinlan in this fight. He is a heavy favorite going into this one. Look at the odds, minus 225 for Josh Quinlan as he opened. There's a definite chance that Jason Witt wins this fight. Now, I know Witt's older. He's 35 years old. Quinlan's 7 years younger than him, give or take. But I truly think there is a pathway to victory for Witt. Quinlan does have solid jiu-jitsu. He's got a couple rear naked choke finishes so far in his career, but again, he hasn't faced the type of wrestler that he's going to see in this fight in the Vanilla Gorilla in Witt. It's a close one. It's closer than the odds suggest. I'm not picking against the favorite in this one. I'll take Josh Quinlan by first round knockout, because if he's likely going to win, it's going to be by that. Actually, I can see first, second round. Actually, I'm going to switch that. Second round knockout for Josh Quinlan. I think he will face some adversity in the first round, because Witt will come out to, I think, a fiery start with his wrestling. But I think in the second, Quinlan's going to bounce back. He might even drop the first, but I think in the second, Witt will start to slow down. And kind of like what happened in the Phil Rowe fight, I think Josh Quinlan will land on one of those big shots, and I think he'll put down Jason Witt. I'm going Josh Quinlan to win this one by second round knockout. So Youssef Zalal, after starting his UFC career 3-0, he is now 3-3. He's dropped his last 3 fights to the likes of Ilia Topuria, which was given a very tough fight for him. He was a favorite, though, fighting Topuria late into 2020. And then you turn that into a loss to Sungwoo Choi by unanimous decision, where he was a minus 245 favorite, and then a fight where he was an underdog to Sean Woodson, where he just lost by split decision in 2021. That was on the Rosenstruck Sakai card. And now trying to stay in the UFC, Youssef Zalal is going to be taking on Damon Blackshear. Now he's supposed to fight Christian Quinones, but Quinones couldn't get into the country, so now it is Damon Blackshear instead. And now Damon Blackshear is the reigning defending CFFC bantamweight champion, of course, the Cage Fury champion in Damon Blackshear. This guy has got a tremendous ground game. He's got a lot of pressure. He's always looking to take fights to the ground. He's always trying to sync up a submission. He's always trying to win fights down there. Now, he's currently on a 4-fight winning streak, the latter 3 being in CFFC, and the last 2, of course, being for the CFFC bantamweight championship. He won the vacant title against DeAndre Anderson, submitting him in the first round by rear naked choke, and then most recently, he retained that championship just 3 months ago, submitting Josh Smith in the third round by rear naked choke as well. And when you look at Blackshear's losses, there's going to be one that is a little bit questionable, but they're all against named guys, and they're all against guys who are UFC caliber fighters. I mean, the latest one being Danny Sabatello. Now, Danny Sabatello, this is a guy who I think is going to be a Bellator world champion very soon. I think he's going to beat Ralphie and Stutz, and I think Danny Sabatello is probably going to beat Sergio Pettis when he comes back as well. And I think he's probably going to beat Karamov. So not Magomed Karamov. I think he's going to beat Magomedov when he fights him in the finals as well. That's how good Danny Sabatello is, or if he runs an Apache mix too. I mean, truly, I think Sabatello is the best bantamweight that Bellator has got. That guy is, now is he always the most entertaining fighter? No, he's entertaining on the mic, but constant pressure on the ground. Danny Sabatello is just kind of a leveled up version of Damone Blackshear, and Sabatello is a tremendous wrestler. And that was Blackshear's last loss. I mean, it was early in 2021. It's a unanimous decision victory for Sabatello for the Bantamweight Championship over there in Titan FC. And then Damone lost to Pat Sabatini. That was for the CFFC Featherweight Championship back in 2018. Sabatini wins it by unanimous decision. But you know how good Sabatini is now. I mean, this guy's a guy who's taken the UFC by storm so far. He's 4-0 in the promotion. Really like his odds in a fight against Damon Jackson coming up. And then you look at Blackshear's other losses, Chris Moutinho. Now, that's the one where you might shake your head and you're like, really? I mean, he lost to Chris Moutinho. Back in 2018, Moutinho grinded out a decision victory, kind of outlasted Damone Blackshear in that fight. But again, that was 4 years ago now. Blackshear now taking on Youssef Zalal. And he's, again, fought a lot of different guys since that Moutinho fight. And he's got a lot better than that Chris Moutinho fight as well. Again, this is a guy who's going to try to take you down. He's going to try to bring you to the mat, and he's going to pressure you down there. Damone Blackshear is a guy also pretty active. I mean, he fought, 4 times in 2021? He fought in Titan FC, CES, and CFFC twice to go win the championship over there. Again, this is going to be a guy who's going to pressure Youssef Zalal. And Zalal isn't bad on the ground himself, but I mean, Ilia Topuria was able to find a lot of success down there against him. Sungwoo Choi found some success as well. So did Jordan Griffin. And then when you look at the names that Zalal beat, it's Austin Lingo, which to this day is his best win. Austin Lingo's a guy who's supposed to fight David Onama, but Lingo's a pretty solid guy. Even though I thought Onama was going to just run right through him. But that's fine. He beats Austin Lingo, does Zalal. He beats Jordan Griffin. He beats Slippery Peter Barrett. Again, the latter two not being in the UFC anymore. Then he loses to Topuria, loses to Choi, loses to Woodson. So he beats some guys who aren't the greatest, but then he loses to some guys who are pretty solid. Again, in Topuria, Choi, and Woodson. Again, Topuria being better than the latter two, but it's just hard to get a read on how good Youssef Zalal is. His striking is all right. It's going to be better than Damone Blackshear's, but on the ground, though, I think Blackshear's got the advantage, and I think Blackshear right now is the underdog going into this fight. He's not the favorite on Tapology right now. You got 35% for Blackshear, and then you got 65% for Youssef Zalal. I really like Damone Blackshear here in this fight. I know it's on short notice, but something to note, Youssef Zalal going down in weight for the first time. He's had 6 UFC fights. They've been at featherweight. He's going down to 135 to take on a guy, Damone Blackshear, again, who will pressure you and he will put a pace on you and drown you on the ground. I like Damone Blackshear's odds in this one. I'm going to take him to win this fight. I got Damone Blackshear to win his UFC debut on short notice in San Diego. I got him to beat Youssef Zalal by decision. So at a catch weight of 120, which I think it might be the first time in UFC history where you do get a fight at 120 pounds, we've got Angela Hill taking on Lupi Godinez. I think this is a tough stylistic matchup for Angela Hill. Now, this one was originally scheduled for later in the year. I think it was going to be in, November-ish, the original scheduling of this fight. But now you have Angela Hill trying to, stay over 500, because if she loses this fight, she'll be 13-13. Fighting Lupi Godinez, and I think it's a tremendous opportunity for Lupi Godinez to break into the top 15. Now, Angela Hill is getting up there in age. Let's be honest with ourselves, she's 37. Lupi Godinez is younger, and I think she's faster as well. And my main point going into this fight, and if I already gave away the prediction, you can probably tell, but if Angela Hill's having trouble with Vina Jandiroba in her last fight in the Blachowicz-Rakic card in May, she's having trouble with the wrestling and the ground game of Vina Jandiroba, what is Lupi Godinez going to do? Because Lupi Godinez is like Vina Jandiroba with lower jiu-jitsu skills, but better wrestling and better hands. And a lot stronger, right? Godinez is going to come in there. She's going to wrestle the hell out of Angela Hill, and I think she's going to keep her down. And now, again, she might not be the submission threat that Vina Jandiroba is, definitely, but Godinez is going to throw harder shots. She's going to throw, way more powerful strikes, and she's going to make it a lot easier on Godinez to get entry-level takedowns and take down Angela Hill and keep her down. Because again, Godinez's top pressure I think is pretty solid. I mean, you look at her last one, the win over Ariane Carnelossi is really dominant, man. I mean, you got 13 minutes of control time in that fight. She goes 8 for 8 on her takedowns. Godinez had no problems in that fight. We should beat Loma Luponi again. More of a tougher fight for Godinez, but still 5 takedowns, a lot of control time. The Silvana Gomez-Juarez fight showed how good Godinez is with the wrestling as well, even though Gomez-Juarez doesn't have a ground game at all. But Godinez, man, just a very tough fighter in general. I didn't think she lost the Jessica Penne fight. The one loss that she does have is the Luana Carolina fight that she took on a week's notice, or less than a week's notice, after fighting the week before and up a weight class. You can disregard that loss for Lupi Godinez. Angela Hill, if she's going to win this fight, she's going to have to keep it on the feet. She's going to have to strike with Godinez. She's going to have to avoid the big power shots. But Angela Hill has not won a fight since March of 2021. I mean, and this is the thing we always talk about in Angela Hill fights. She'll beat the fighters that are outside the top 15 and definitely outside the top 20. Once she gets into this range, though, when she's fighting top 15 level fighters, and I would like to consider Lupi Godinez a top 15 fighter, she's going to have trouble with them. I mean, look at all the top 15 names that Hill has had trouble with. Gina Chechidova, Amanda Lemos, Tisha Torres, Michelle Watterson, Claudia Gadelia, Yaunja Naon, Nina Nunes, Jessica Andrade, Rosanna Muniz, Tisha Torres. Again, right when you get these tough fighters, Hill doesn't usually seem to perform. And again, if she's going to win this fight, she's going to have to keep it standing, which I think is going to be very tough for her considering her last fight. And she's going to have to keep striking at range against Godinez and not get clipped. I don't think it's going to happen. I think this is one of the easier ones to pick on the entire card. Angela Hill, again, is 13-12. She's a 50-50 fighter. I'm going to take Lupi Godinez. I think it's going to be pure domination. Godinez wrestling, takedowns, keeping top pressure, I'm going Lupi Godinez to win this fight. I got her by decision. So Picasso's back. Yes, the Picasso of MMA, Ode Osbourne. I want that to become a thing. I want everyone to acknowledge Ode Osbourne as the Picasso of MMA. And now, is this just a random tidbit that he said in an interview back in 2019? Yeah, it is. Or 2020, early 2020, late 2019. Yeah, it is. But I want everyone to know that Ode Osbourne is the Picasso of MMA because his fight style is like an art form. All right, and this man is he's a top 15 flyweight. Ode Osbourne is an elite flyweight. This guy, and he's gonna show it to you this Saturday night. I'm a huge Ode Osbourne fan, and take this pick a little bit biased, but I don't think it is. I really think Ode Osbourne's gonna beat Tyson Nam. Now, Ode Osbourne's 3-2 in the UFC. His first fight is lost to Brian Kelleher. Kelleher catches him in a guillotine, but that's Ode fighting at 135. Again, the guy is now down to flyweight, and he's looked pretty good. I know he lost Jerome Rivera, or he beat Jerome Rivera, at featherweight, but at flyweight, he's 2-1. He lost to Manel Kape. It's gonna happen to you. Manel Kape's a guy who I might pick against all flyweights other than Pantoja, Figueiredo, Kai Kara France, Brandon Moreno, and maybe Brandon Royval. Those are the only guys who I think that I would pick to beat Manel Kape, but I think Manel Kape would have a shot pretty much against any of those guys. That's how good Manel Kape is, and Kape caught Ode Osbourne in the first round, but with a flying knee, but again, Kape missed weight in that fight. Ode Osbourne did not. Picasso, though, no need to fear, beat CJ Vergara after that, and then he knocks out Zaruk Adeshev, the big counter right hook, puts him down to the mat. You don't know how excited I was when my guy Picasso, the Jamaican sensation, won in the first round just a couple months ago, and now he's back fighting Tyson Nam. Ode Osbourne's got power at flyweight that a lot of guys don't possess, and this guy's huge reach is, 73-inch reach for a flyweight is huge. Tyson Nam's got 67, so 6-inch reach advantage for Picasso in this fight. I think it's going to make it tough on Tyson Nam, especially a guy who hasn't fought in a while, and a guy who is a older flyweight, who is not as quick as he once was, a guy who, saw some success coming out of the UFC when he fought in Fight Nights Global after he got cut the first time, after he didn't get cut the first time, after he left World Series of Fighting for the first time, because when he fought Marlon Moraes, but he comes to the UFC, of course, fights Sergio Pettis, loses to Kai Kara France, beats Zaruk Adeshev, beats Jerome Rivera, two guys who Picasso has beat as well, and this most recently lost to Matt Schnell, a split decision to him in January of 2021. He has not fought since. He's been booked twice against Tiger Ulanbekov. Fight hasn't happened both times. First time in 2021, Ulanbekov withdrew, and the second time Ulanbekov got hurt. But again, you haven't seen Tyson Nam rescheduled for a fight until now against the Picasso of MMA and Ode Osbourne. This is a fight that honestly was just scheduled a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, because this card, 3 weeks ago, had 9 fights. It's added the Picasso fight, and it's added 3 fights that got moved from different cards, and now that's how we have 13 fights in this one. But again, this is a guy in Tyson Nam who hasn't fought in 15 months, longer, 18 months. He hasn't fought in a while, and we're coming in after a loss to Matt Schnell, who's a good fighter, but you haven't fought all this time, taking on one of the bigger power threats at 125. Again, you're hard pressed to find better and bigger power threat fighters at 125 than Ode Osbourne. You can look at Manel Kape, you can look at Godinez and Figueiredo, you can even look at Kai Kara France, you can look at, I'd throw Brandon Moreno in there as well, but guys who have that one-punch knockout power. Ode Osbourne's your guy in this weight class, and Tyson Nam, again, has been finished before in his career. I think he's going to get finished again right here. I know the only time I think he's been finished was Marlon Moraes, but you know, I really like Osbourne in this one. I think he's going to connect on the chin again, especially against an older Tyson Nam who is 38 years old. I know guys at a syndicate don't win all that often, but Buday Osbourne's an exception. I've got Picasso to go in there, pick up the win in the first round. Picasso of MMA on a 3-fight winning streak with yet another knockout. So someone's got to win one here. I mean, you got Gabriel Mowgli Benítez taking on Charlie Ontiveros. I mean, I'll say this. You'll see fireworks in this fight. I mean, you're going to see fireworks in this one between Mowgli Benítez and Charlie Ontiveros. Ontiveros throws some crazy stuff. Does it always land? No, but he'll throw crazy stuff. He's got a lot of power. He won't always land, but he's got a lot of power. I mean, that's what he showed in his last fight against Steve Garcia. Now, he only landed 7 significant strikes in that fight, but 2 of those were knockdowns. He got outstruck in that fight, and eventually Garcia finished him. He got him to the ground, eventually finished him with a TKO with ground and pound in the second round. But Ontiveros, he'll throw some crazy kicks. He'll throw some crazy strikes. And he'll try to knock you out with every punch, but he's not going to land all the time. I mean, Ontiveros doesn't really land that much. He didn't really. I mean, okay. Ontiveros will load up and he'll throw big shots, but he's not all that active. But when he does throw, it's flashy. You look at his Kevin Holland fight, nothing really happened. I mean, Holland outstruck him and then got him to the ground and slammed him, kind of took him down. Ontiveros got all messed up, in a neck injury that eventually won the fight for Holland by TKO. But Ontiveros is a guy who's 11-8. Let's be honest with ourselves, he's not that great. He hasn't beat anyone that's all that impressive. I mean, he's fought some solid guys. He's got a fight against Michael Venom Page where he lost. I think he got knocked down in the first round, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he got knocked down in the first round. He fought Jeff Neal outside the UFC, who just looked really good for some reason against Vicente Luque. I didn't think that was going to happen, but I mean, shout out to Neal in that fight just a couple hours ago when I'm recording this. But again, Ontiveros hasn't really beat that many guys. He's been finished a lot. I mean, hell, he's been TKO'd 7 times, I think, which is not good. 8 times. He's been knocked out or finished TKO'd 8 times. Not good. I know 2 of them were injuries, but man, the guy has taken a lot of damage, only 31 years old, and I haven't even talked about Mowgli Benítez yet. This is a guy who's lost 4 out of his last 5. It's been against some good competition, though. Let's be honest with ourselves. I mean, David Onama is a guy who's in the co-main event. Got knocked out by Onama in the first round, but that was a crazy fist fight. Both those guys threw in the first round. Lost to Billy Quarantillo in a fight of the night on the Mahashev Moises card. That was a great fight that eventually Quarantillo finished him late in the 3rd round. Benítez finishes Justin James with a beautiful knee to the body in the first round. Lose to Omar Morales before that, and lose to Super Sodiq Yusuff, and that's kind of been the dry spell as of late for Mowgli Benítez. Now, Ontiveros is going to be a lot taller than Mowgli Benítez in this fight. I think he's going to have like a 5. He's going to be like 5 inches taller than Benítez, which is crazy. But again, I'm not too concerned in this one. I'm going to take Gabriel Mowgli Benítez here. Ontiveros doesn't really have a chin, I don't think, at this point. I think Benítez is going to be able to stun him. I think he's going to be able to rock him. I think he's going to be able to put him down. As long as Ontiveros doesn't catch Benítez in a crazy highlight reel knockout. This is the thing. Benítez will likely win. I mean, I think he's a pretty big favorite going into this one. He will likely win the fight. But if Charlie Ontiveros wins, Benítez is like a minus 250 favorite. But if Ontiveros wins, he's not going to win by decision. He's not going to win by submission. No, it will be by knockout. If Ontiveros does win, it will be a crazy highlight reel knockout that's going to be in the first round that you will see on SportsCenter over and over and over again. And it's going to be all over Twitter. Bleacher Report's going to post it. SportsCenter's going to post it. ESPN's going to post it. UFC's going to repost it a million times. It's going to be one of those. And the crowd's going to go wild in San Diego. That's if Ontiveros wins. If not, Benítez will probably break him down in the first round, eventually finish him late in the first round. Just probably knock him down a couple times and eventually put him down and put him out. So I'm going to go with the latter again. I'm not going to bank on a one-shot knockout punch at Charlie Ontiveros. Again, I'm not going to pick the guys like a plus 300 underdog. I'm going to take Mowgli Benítez here. First round knockout. I find it pretty simple. So next up, we've got a heavyweight fight. It will be Lucas Brzeski making his UFC debut against Martin Buday. For Martin Buday, he's undefeated so far in the UFC, given it's only one fight. It was that win over Chris Barnett, where it's got a weird ending. I mean, Buday's winning the fight, don't get me wrong. He's dominating Barnett for the most part. He's taking Barnett down. He's, outstriking him. He's winning the fight. But in the 3rd round, he's got that weird 12-6 elbow to the back of the head, which looked pretty intentional to me. They went... Okay, Barnett couldn't continue, so they go to the scorecards. They go to a technical decision, which, of course, Buday wins. But was it not intentional? I know if you took off a point, it still wouldn't matter. But it was just a weird ending. Dan Miragliotta didn't take a point from Buday. He said it was accidental. But if it was a 12-6 elbow to the back of the head, isn't that pretty intentional? I don't know. But Buday was going to win no matter what. So whatever. He wins the fight by decision. That's cool. Comes in the UFC after beating Lorenzo Hood. He knocks him out in the first round, late in the first round of the Contender Series. He's taking on Lucas Brzeski, who, let's be honest, Brzeski, we don't really know how good he is just because of the levels of competition he's fought. Even his Contender Series victory where he takes his contract, it's whatever Dylan Potter. Now, he submits Potter in the third round. He's a minus 400 favorite. He wins that fight like he's supposed to. But Dylan Potter, since then, has had one fight. He just fought, on Friday, and he got submitted by Marcelo Nunes on the post-limbs to the PFL playoffs card. Now, Nunes submitted him in 2 minutes. And Brzeski took, 13? I mean, I'm not discrediting Brzeski at all. Brzeski had a good performance. He was out striking Dylan Potter. He had him on the ground for a lot of that fight. But I'm just, wondering how good is Brzeski really? Because Dylan Potter is not that high level of a guy. And Marcelo Nunes did not have any trouble with them. I mean, I think you're going to see Nunes in the PFL, regular season next year. If they're doing it, I don't know what format they're going to do with their PFL next season. We'll see. I just don't know how good Brzeski is because look at his fights before going to the Contender Series. It's in Babylon MMA, and he's beating guys who are 3-1, 20-5, 18-10, 4-2, 6-1, 1-0. You just don't know how good Brzeski is. Now, Brzeski's got a pretty solid stand-up game. I mean, it's all right, but it's really the wrestling that's going to win him fights. He's going to take guys down. He's going to work his ground and pound. That's where he does, rack up a lot of his strikes. It's through the ground and pound. We'll see, man, because Buday's a guy who is willing to wrestle with you. He's willing to engage in the clinch. He's got good submissions, and he's got some solid striking as well. Both these guys do throw very hard. Buday is 6'4". I think Brzeski is 6'4" as well. So you got two really big heavyweights that are going to be able to go in there and really just slug it out. I think you're going to get a good and a fun fight in this one. Two younger heavyweights. I mean, I think they're 30 years old, but they're young for heavyweight. Two guys who are new to the new to the UFC's heavyweight division. And both guys looking for a big finish. I'm going to go with Martin Buday, though. I think Buday is just better. I think he's more powerful, and I think he's got better skills in the ground that can win in this fight as well. So I'm going to go with Martin Buday. I think you're going to see just a slugfest in the feet. I think someone's going to go out in the first round. I'm going to go with Martin Buday to put out Lucas Brzeski in the first, just because, again, I truly just don't know how good Brzeski is. I'm going to go Martin Buday to win this fight. I got him by first round knockout. So two fighters making the UFC debut. We've got Yasmin Jauregui taking on Yasmin Lucindo here at strawweight, and you got two younger strawweights as well, as Yasmin Jauregui is 23 years old, hailing from Baja California in Mexico, and she's taking on Yasmin Lucindo fighting out of Fortaleza, Brazil. Okay, so you've got Lucindo, who's 20 years old, who, hasn't fought the greatest competition. I mean, again, she's only 20 years old, and she's had 17 pro fights, which is pretty impressive. She made her debut back in 2017, so it's 5 years ago. Yeah, she was 15 years old when she made her not UFC debut, that'd be crazy. When she made her MMA debut, she was 15 years old. And for Jauregui, she made her professional debut in 2018, so that was, 4 years ago. She was 19, right? Now, Jauregui's definitely fought the better competition. She's fought in Combate, and she's fought some pretty solid fighters over there. For Lucindo, I mean, she's been fighting in various promotions in Brazil. I watched one of her fights where she submitted, I don't know how to pronounce her opponent's name. It was 2 fights ago, and Samurai Fight House won. It's in Brazil. There's, no one at the fight. I think this is still, kind of pandemic-y fight. Actually, no, it's late in 2021. It's in the summer 2021. Actually, no, the pandemic's kind of over then. But anyways, there was no one there watching the fight, but she wins the fight. Late in the second round, she gets it by TKO. I mean, her opponent taps via strikes, but it's just pure domination by Lucindo. And honestly, Jauregui and Lucindo, both really good pressure on the feet. I mean, both of them have pretty solid gas tanks. I would say for Jauregui, more looking for the finish early. She's got heavier hands, and she's really just able to go in there and blitz her opponents and able to put them down early into fights. For Lucindo, I wouldn't say the same power that Jauregui's got, and definitely hasn't fought the type of fighters that Jauregui's fought either, but still has some solid power and is able to get fights to the ground, work on her ground and pound, and finish fights on the ground as well. But again, my point with Lucindo is, other than her last fight, which she won because the fighter was 8-3 at the time, she has not fought the greatest competition. You're looking at a fighter's 2-1-2, 9-3, 0-0, 2-2, 0-4, lost fighters 4-3, 1-1, 2-0, 0-2, and a professional debut, right? But again, this fighter's only 20 years old. She's very young in her career, 13-40, a lot of fights under her belt. She's on a 7-fight winning streak. She has not lost since 2019, so she has not lost since she was 17 years old. That's saying something, right? I'm going to go with Jauregui, though. I just think she's got more power on the feet. I think she's an all-around better striker. I think Lucindo definitely has a slight advantage in the ground. But I think Jauregui's able to keep this fight on his feet. I think she's able to keep it standing. I think she's able to outbox Lucindo. Do I think she's going to be able to find that finish? I don't think so. Just because, again, two fighters making their debut, it's hard to pick a finish, especially by knockout at strawweight, especially with two fighters who are new to the UFC. But if it's going to happen, it might be in a fight like this. Again, we just don't know how good Lucindo is. I kind of know how good Jauregui is, but I'm going to go with Yasmin Jauregui to win this fight. I got her by decision. All around, she's the better striker. She's got heavier hands. I think she'll be able to win this fight. And now we've got Nina Nunes taking on Cynthia Calvillo. Now, this was scheduled for a UFC Apex card earlier in the summer. Dos Anjos and Fiziev. Already talked about the fight just a month ago. I mean, prediction doesn't really change at all, so we're just going to roll that and we'll move on to Devin Clark and Asmat Murzakanov afterwards. Confidence levels are at 0 at this fight. I mean, we got Cynthia Calvillo taking on Nina Nunes. And now, I'll tell you what I anticipate to happen in this one, but I really don't know what's going to go down in this. Because you got, on one side, Cynthia Calvillo is a fighter who quit on the stool in her last fight, and, she didn't look great in the Andrea Lee fight. Lee picked her apart on the feet, man. I mean, Andrea Lee, that was the best Andrea Lee performance I've ever seen in my life. Andrea Lee looked really good in that one. And then, before that, she fought Jessica Andrade in the main card of a pay-per-view. She lost. She got finished in the first round. And then, she fought Kaylin Kuchagian. Before that, she loses by unanimous decision. And then before that, she beat Jessica Ai in a main event, and, that put her like at number 2 in the rankings, that she beat Jessica Ai, who's now retired Jessica Ai, and who's forcing her way on the Joe Rogan podcast. I mean, hell, Joe might cancel his podcast for good now because Jessica Ai wants to be on it. In all seriousness, I guess that's going to happen. I mean, here we go, evil. Here we go. Woo, woo. But anyway, Cynthia Calvillo beat Jessica Ai by unanimous decision. I can't believe I picked Jessica Ai to win that fight. But, honestly, Calvillo has looked really bad since then. So she goes on, she fights Kuchagian. She's like -250 favorite. She loses by decision. Okay. She runs in on Andrade. She knew how that fight was going to go. UFC 266. It was domination by Jessica Andrade. She beat up Cynthia Calvillo, and she finished in the first round. Then Andrea Lee just dominated. And now we're, back at 125, taking on Nina Nunes. Nunes normally fought at 115. I think this is her first fight, 125, at least in a while. She came back after the pregnancy. She's a favorite going to the Mackenzie Dern fight. I was like, really? Dern submitted her in the first round, like we kind of thought was going to happen. And now I didn't think the submission was going to happen, but Dern dominated. Nunes couldn't really get going. I mean, I don't know. When you look at Nina Nunes' record, who did she really beat? Like now looking back at it, like in the present when she beat Claudia Gadelha, it was a big win. She beat her by decision as a featured prelim UFC 231 in Canada on that Holloway Ortega card. She beats her in the present. That's, back then that looked like a really good win. Now, is it all that great? Because Gadelha struggled past that point. I mean, she had that fight against Angela Hill where maybe she won, maybe she didn't. And then, of course, she had the Yao Xiaonan fight where she loses and ends up retiring after. And then Nina Nunes goes in the Tatiana Suarez fight. And honestly, Nunes fights Suarez better than anyone has to this point in time. Because the first 2 rounds, okay, Suarez is dominating. Suarez is taking Nunes down. She's clinching with her. She's grappling with her. And Suarez wins those first 2. But in the third round, man, Nina Nunes has got Tatiana Suarez in a little bit of danger. Nunes wins that third round. She stuffs all of Suarez's takedowns. Suarez isn't able to get going. I think in that third round, Suarez again hurt herself in that third, and we haven't seen Tatiana Suarez since. I want to see Tatiana fight. I mean, hell, she's 8-0. She dominated Carla Esparza. Oh, who's the champion right now? It's Carla Esparza. She beat Alexa Grasso, and Alexa Grasso is like a fight away from the belt. We need to see Tatiana Suarez fight. We need to see her fight again. But, I mean, I hope she's healthy. She's supposed to fight Roxanne Modafferi at one point in time. Fight never happened. I just hope she fights again. We'll see. Anyways, with Calvillo and Suarez, there's not Suarez, I wish Suarez was fighting. With Calvillo and Nunes, I mean, okay, one would anticipate Cynthia Calvillo is looking for the takedown in this fight, right? I mean, she's probably going to try to take down Nina Nunes, but Nunes, with the exception of the Dern fight, her takedown defense was really good, I think. I mean, I know Gadelha took her down a couple times, and I know Suarez took her down a couple times, but her takedown defense as a whole isn't that bad. And when Nunes is on the feet, and when she's able to strike, she does a pretty good job in doing so. Like, I mean, the fight I go back to is the Angela Hill fight. I know that fight was 5 years ago to this point, but still, she's able to stand there. She's able to outstrike Angela Hill, who Hill's not a bad striker in her own right. I know she's going to fight Lupita Godinez, which she'll probably lose later this year. But, Nunes does have some solid striking in her. She was able to outbox Claudia Gadelha. In the third, she's able to outbox Tatiana Suarez when that fight's, contested on the feet. Obviously, that's what you would anticipate in a striking affair between Nunes and Suarez. But I just don't know. Like, what are we going to get post-pregnancy Nina Nunes? Because she didn't look good in her first fight post-pregnancy against Mackenzie Dern. What are we going to get in her second fight? And what are we going to get out of Cynthia Calvillo, a fighter who just got, demolished in her last fight against Andrea Lee, who got finished in the Jessica Andrade fight, and then just got shut down by Kaylin Kuchagian all after her first main event victory over Jessica Ai. You got a fighter who's lost, her last 3 fights, taking on Nunes, who's lost her last 2 and hasn't won a fight since 2018. It's a tough fight to pick. Again, I would not put money on this. Don't do it. don't do it. And take this with a pinch of salt. I'm taking Cynthia Calvillo by decision. I'm doing it. I think she'll win. I think she's able to wrestle Nunes, and if she's not able to, hold her down, I think she's going to make it boring. I think she's going to push her back against the fence. I think Calvillo, in those short boxing ranges, she'll be able to barely connect against Nunes, and I think she'll win a boring decision. I don't think this is going to be on anyone's fight of the night, cards, but I'll take Cynthia Calvillo ever so slightly by decision. But I do see a world 100% where Nunes is able to keep the fight on the feet, and Nunes just outboxes Calvillo for 3 rounds and wins a decision that way. I can see it either way. I'll ever so slightly, though, take Cynthia Calvillo. Now, light heavyweight, we've got Azamat Murzakanov taking on Devin Clark. So Devin Clark's back down at 205 after that one fight that he did have at 265 pounds where he beat Will Knight, another guy who used to fight light heavyweight, but he finished Will Knight in the 3rd round. Now, did I pick Will Knight? I might have. But Devin Clark won that one. He looked good in the fight. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I was kind of impressed Devin Clark coming into that fight. He, scored the knockdown. He was able to out-wrestle Will Knight. He all around looked pretty solid in that fight. Got Will Knight in the clinch, worked in the clinch, finished him there. Eventually dropped him and won the fight that way. Because Clark, had lost back-to-back fights at 205 before that. Anthony Smith and Ion Cutelaba, given 2 really good fighters of Smith and Cutelaba. Before that, he beat Alonzo Menifield, beat Daquan Townsend, even though Daquan Townsend is not the greatest. But now he's going to be taking on a guy who's undefeated, 11-0, Azamat Murzakanov. And Murzakanov, in his last fight, looked pretty good against Stefan Chukwe, given it was a fight where Chukwe was having a lot of success. Look at the first round, you give it to Chukwe, you give the second round to Chukwe as well. It's just the third, 40 seconds into the 3rd round, Murzakanov lands a huge flying knee, sits down Stefan Chukwe, and wins the fight. But that's where I think Devin Clark can have some success in this fight. I think Devin Clark can win. I think this fight's really dependent on Devin Clark, keeping the volume up in this and just finding a way not to get knocked out. If Devin Clark is able just to touch up Murzakanov in this fight, he can win. Keep his distance, use his jab, and just, not get caught with the flying knee. Hell, we saw Stefan Chukwe. He was able to outland on Murzakanov for a while. And Murzakonov's a guy who, or Stefan Chukwe's a guy who's not known especially for his volume, a guy who, throws hard as well, but he was still just able to outland Murzakanov for the first 2 rounds until he got knocked out, the huge flying knee that put him out cold. If Devin Clark is able just to do that in the first 2 rounds, then just kind of cruise the 3rd, he can win this fight. And I think this is why this is a really good opportunity for Devin Clark, considering if Murzakanov is very hesitant early in this fight, just like he did in that fight against Chukwe. Now, was it just a result of him being his first fight in the UFC? Sure, because you look at his contender series when it's a very good victory of a guy who is going to be in the PFL playoffs next week in Matus Sheffel. Matus Sheffel's a guy who, honestly, should he be in the playoffs? No, he's a replacement fighter, but hell, he beat Bruno Capoloza, he should be there. He's going to fight Dennis Goldsov next, and let's be honest, he'll probably lose, and we'll have that full card breakdown coming on the channel just tomorrow, and we'll talk about that fight in more detail. But, Murzakanov looks really good. He finishes Sheffel. He blitzes him a couple times in that fight, eventually just catches him with a big right hook. Herb Dean's a little bit late on the stoppage, but Murzakanov wins in the 1st round. And he was coming off of, really good performances in ACB and in Brave before that. But that was, the Sheffel one was coming off a 2-year layoff previous to that. He was the Brave CF world champion over there at open weight, but now he's taking on Devin Clark. Again, I think you're going to see 2 guys go out there. I think you're going to see him throw. I think Devin Clark, though, is going to be a little bit more measured in his approach than Murzakanov will be. But again, Murzakanov seemed pretty hesitant in his last fight to throw until that he, saw that opportunity in the 3rd round and was able to put down Stefan Chukwe. I think this fight's really close. Honestly, this is one of the tougher ones to pick on the entire card, considering Devin Clark. Again, I think if he's able to keep his distance and kind of do to Murzakanov what he did to Alonzo Menifield, not take too many chances, just stay on the outside. I know Menifield was pushing the pace on the ground in that fight, but when that fight was standing, Devin Clark did see a lot of success, and that's how he won the fight, because Menifield, again, with the exceptions of the controlled time on the ground, he wasn't really doing much with it, and Clark, when they got back to the feet, was able to, do some damage, work his jab, throw the cross as well, and he was able to win rounds in that fight. He won 2 out of 3 in that fight at UFC 250 back in the Apex. I think it's a really close fight. It's one of the closest ones in this entire fight card to pick. It's either do you take the guy Devin Clark, who you think is able to outlast Murzakanov and win a decision and stretch the fight out, or do you think Murzakanov, it only takes one? Do you think he's able to land that big shot and sit down Devin Clark? I'm gonna go with the latter. I'm really tempted to take Clark in this fight, but I'm gonna go with Murzakanov. I think Murzakanov will go in there. I think he will find that big one punch that will sit down Devin Clark, and I think he's gonna put him out cold in the 1st round. It's a big, it's a tough pick to pick, but again, I'm not anticipating Murzakanov to win by decision. I don't just see that happening. If Murzakanov is going to win, it will be by knockout. If Devin Clark will win, it's a chance it's by knockout if it's late in the fight, but it'll be, I think, really just volume shots from Clark and eventually decision victory. But if you're picking Murzakanov, you are picking the knockout, and that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to take Osbourne Murzakanov to beat Devin Clark. I got him by first round knockout. So Gerald Meerschaert is not capable of taking easy fights. Similar to Edson Barbosa, the guy just does not take easy fights, and here you go. It's another tough one, and it's a stylistically intriguing matchup here between GM3 Gerald Meerschaert and Bruno Silva, because Bruno Silva is coming off the loss to the guy who is going to be fighting for the World Championship next in November in Madison Square Garden, Alex Pereira. And Silva looked really good before that. He looked really good in M1 Challenge, and then of course, after that, he won in the UFC, won 3 straight fights, all by TKO. And then you're looking at his opponent here in Gerald Meerschaert, who again does not take easy fights, but he just is coming off a loss to Krzysztof Jotko. And now, I think this fight, it's all dependent on if Meerschaert can get this fight on the ground. It obviously is. Because if Meerschaert is able to get this fight on the ground, it's a lot of success for him down there, I think so. I mean, Bruno Silva, now, was he finished by Andrew Sanchez on the ground when he fought Andrew Sanchez on the Latin Dumont card? No, he wasn't. But you saw in that fight, Bruno Silva was outstriking Andrew Sanchez. He outstruck him in pretty much every single round of that fight, but Sanchez made it interesting in the first and second rounds by taking him down in the first, took him down in the second. Basically, that entire second round was Andrew Sanchez grounding Bruno Silva. And in the third round, oh no, Sanchez couldn't take him down anymore. Silva was able to keep the fight on the feet. He stuffed 3 takedowns, and eventually Silva knocked him out, right? So you can keep Silva down for the first couple rounds of this fight, right? Or any fight. But it's just, again, every round starts on the feet, and that's all Bruno Silva needs. He came into that third round different. He was able to keep the fight standing, and eventually, he knocked out Sanchez. Meerschaert's gonna have to do what Andrew Sanchez did in the first and second round 3 times. He's gonna have to do that every single round, or he's gonna have to try to submit Bruno Silva, because I don't think he can stand on the feet with Bruno Silva, because that guy's punching power is insane. You saw the way he knocked out Jordan Wright at UFC 269, the way he knocked out Wellington Turman in the summer of 2021, the guys that got dynamite in his fists. And see what you want with Gerald Meerschaert. The guy's tough. He's a tough fighter. He's got a really good ground game. He had 3 straight wins by submission in 2021. Bartosz Fabinski, Mahmoud Muradov, which is a huge upset, Dustin Stoltzfus, all 3 really good wins for Gerald Meerschaert. And they lose to Krzysztof Jotko in a fight where Jotko just kind of beat him everywhere. Jotko beat him on the ground. Jotko beat him on the feet. He was just all around better than Gerald Meerschaert on that one night. But again, the guy does not take easy fights. He has been finished before, though, obviously in 2020. He picked the win against Duran win, and then he got knocked out twice. One being to Ian Heinisch, the other one being to Khamzat Chimaev. Again, that's if Meerschaert can't take the fight on the ground. If Meerschaert is getting beat in the wrestling standpoint of things, that's what happens to him, mostly. I mean, against really big power punchers. You know, Heinisch, I wouldn't say is on the same level as a guy like Khamzat Chimaev, obviously. But Bruno Silva is one of those guys, similar to Chimaev. He's got a lot of power in the feet, and Silva's a more technical striker than Khamzat Chimaev is. Say what you want. Chimaev, again, presents a different challenge against a guy like Gerald Meerschaert, which was a fight that made it very tough on Meerschaert, considering, okay, Chimaev's punching power, which at the time we didn't really know much of, and is how good Chimaev's striking is. Plus, oh yeah, he can wrestle really well, and he's really tough to take down, and oh yeah, he's really tough to deal with on the ground, right? So, stylistically, that's like one of the worst matches for Gerald Meerschaert, Khamzat Chimaev. Bruno Silva's another very tough matchup for him. But again, we will see Bruno Silva's takedown if it's tested again. We will see it. Because, yes, he was taken down 7 times by Andrew Sanchez. But since then, he hasn't been taken down. I mean, given, though, like the guys he's fought, it's Jordan Wright and it's Alex Pereira. So, we'll see, man. I mean, again, this fight's just so dependent on if Meerschaert can take him down. Because if Meerschaert can take him down, I really like Gerald Meerschaert in this fight. But still, I would say, okay, Bruno Silva might have a shot. Because, again, every round starts in the feet. And Silva's always going to have the opportunity to knock him out, right? Meerschaert has, started a little bit slow in his last couple of fights. The Stoltzfus fight really stands out. Stoltzfus is dominating him in the first couple of rounds. Eventually, Meerschaert turns around, submits him in the third. The Mahmoud Muradov fight, Muradov's winning until he's not, and Meerschaert catches him. Fabinski fight, it was a guillotine pretty early on in the fight. I'm going to take Bruno Silva here. I mean, I like Gerald Meerschaert, but I think you're going to see a somewhat similar performance what happened in the Chimaev and the Ian Heinisch fight. I think Silva's going to catch him. And knock him out in the first round. If Meerschaert, again, isn't able to take him down, he's not going to be able to stand on the feet of Bruno Silva. It's just not going to happen. I think Meerschaert's got to make this a dirty fight. He's going to have to clinch with Silva. He's going to have to push him back against the fence. He's just got to make this an interesting fight and not let Bruno Silva get comfortable in there. Because if you let Bruno Silva get comfortable in there, his striking just keeps on getting better and better. And eventually he's going to put you down. Eventually he's going to find that big power shot, and he's going to knock you out. I'm gonna say that's gonna happen though. I'm gonna go Bruno Silva to knock out Meerschaert. He's gonna get it done in the first round. I mean, this one's got Fight of the Night written all over it. David Onama taking on Nate Landwehr. I mean, this fight's gotta be insane, right? Onama's a guy who just keeps on staying active. The guy's fought twice in 22. This is going to be his second fight in the last 2 months, his third fight of the year. He has not wasted any time since joining the UFC. I mean, he joined late 2021. He lost a fight, short notice to Mason Jones, but it's all right. He came back, knocked out Gabriel Mowgli Benítez in the first round in their fight earlier in 2022. This most recently submitting Garrett Armfield in the second round by arm triangle choke, showcasing, okay, he's got more than just a stand-up game. The guy can get it done in all facets of the game. He's truly a really good fighter, Onama. He's only 28 years old. The Silent Assassin's the nickname. The guy's so quick on the feet. He's got takedowns if he needs it as well. But in this fight with him and Nate Landwehr, I think you're going to see both these guys willing to engage in a firefight on the feet, and it's going to make for a complete war, man. And the thing about Nate Landwehr, he has not fought since late 2021, where he did submit Ludovic Klein in the third round. Again, showing that he does have the ground game as well if he does need it. But I would anticipate a striking affair between these two. I know, again, Landwehr can get it on the ground, same can Onama, but I think both these guys' ground games are going to, even out here and cancel out each other, because Landwehr is pretty good defensively. He's pretty good defensively with his takedown defense, and Onama, pretty solid there as well. So I think you're gonna see both guys again striking. And Landwehr's 2-2 in the UFC. Came in, he got finished by Herbert Burns in his first fight, which didn't age the greatest. Beat Darren Elkins in that crazy fight in Jacksonville on the Overeem Harris card. All that blood on the octagon. It was one of the first fights back after the pandemic hit. He lost to Juicy J though after that. Julian Erosa caught him with a huge flying knee, and then Ludovic Klein, of course, Landwehr won with the performance of the night bonus, submitting him in the third round. I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought Klein was going to go in there and just steamroll him, but again, of course, the win went to MMA Masters Zone in Nate Landwehr. But again, I mean, Landwehr's been finished twice in the UFC in the first round. The other two did pick up victories. Both of his losses do come by a knee. I don't know if Onama's going to land that one knee either, but man, David Onama's good. I mean, you look at the Mowgli Benítez fight, just the pressure that he's able to put on Mowgli late in that first round, the blitzing that Benítez does put on, that Onama puts on Benítez is crazy. The power he's got, and then you look at the Garrett Armfield fight. Okay, he's beating Armfield on the feet, but also he's able to take Armfield down. He's able to control him on the ground eventually, gets him in that arm triangle when he's in the half guard, and eventually again taps out Garrett Armfield. But I don't really think you're going to see much of a grappling. I don't think you're going to see much of the grappling out of either man in this fight, just because, again, I think both these guys will be, for Onama, it's his first fight in front of a crowd in the UFC. I think it's Landwehr's as well. So both these guys, actually, no, Landwehr, his first fight in the UFC was against Herbert Burns on the Dos Santos and Blaze cards back in Raleigh, North Carolina in early 2020. But it's the first time Landwehr's fought the crowd in over 2 years. Onama's first crowd in the UFC ever. Again, I think this is going to be huge. It's by far the biggest crowd Onama's been in front of. Last time I think he was in front of a crowd was at FAC 2 in Independence, Missouri. So that was a while ago, early in 2020. I just think this is going to be an incredible fight. I'm really high on David Onama, though. I think Onama is one of the top prospects the UFC's got. At only 28 years old, this guy is still very young in his career. He made his pro debut in February of 2019. Again, the guy is young in this game. He hasn't taken any damage at all, and Nate Landwehr has been around for a while. I mean, he had some wars in M1 and M1 Global. He fought, prior to the UFC as well, or prior to M1 as well, in XFC and other promotions in the regional scene. He's taken some damage. You saw all that, he got knocked out by Julian Erosa after his war against Darren Elkins, even though that was like 9 months after the fight with Elkins. But, Landwehr continues to have some of these, dragged out fights that go late into the fights. It's eventually going to catch up to you. I think Onama's going to go in there. And again, I would just take Onama no matter what in this fight, just because how good that guy is, just because the power that David Onama does possess at 145 pounds. Again, I truly think the guy is going to be a huge star in the UFC. There's a reason they trust him with this co-main event role here in front of a crowd in San Diego, California. I think he's going to put on a show, and I think he's going to knock out Nate Landwehr. I think Landwehr's going to throw a lot back at him, but I think Onama's eventually going to pick a shot. Eventually, Onama's going to catch him with a big overhand and sit him down. I'm going to go with the Ugandan fighter in David Onama to pick up his third win in the UFC. I think will be a first-round knockout victory over Nate Landwehr. All right, so main event time. We've got Marlon Chito Vera taking on Dominick the Dominator Cruz. It's such an intriguing stylistic matchup here because you're going to see striking between these two guys. I mean, I don't anticipate this one hitting the mat. Dominick Cruz shoots a very nice blast double that you might see. I mean, he does land that some. He landed against Pedro Munoz, but I don't think we're going to really see it. Chito Vera, I mean, he took down Davey Grant. I mean, and he did use that to win the fight. But like, I don't think we're going to see much grappling in this fight. I really don't think we're going to. I think you're going to see a stand-up fight just like Chito Vera's last fight against Rob Font. It went all 5 rounds. I was surprised Rob Font got to that 5 rounds against Chito because he was getting landed on. I mean, Marlon Chito Vera did get outstruck in that fight. Don't get me wrong. Font outstruck him 271 to 159. Those are the final, tallies for the strike total in that fight. Strike totals in that fight. Chito Vera knocked him down 3 times, and there was a pretty obvious power advantage in that fight. Marlon Vera, even though Rob Font was hitting him more, Chito was just walking right through him. I mean, it wasn't affecting Chito Vera, and Rob Font, when he got hit by Marlon Vera, he was getting rocked. I mean, you look at what Rob Font's face looked like at the end of that 5-round main event, almost unrecognizable. And yeah, Font probably wins the first. The second goes to Chito Vera, even though Font outstruck him 2-1. The third goes to Chito Vera, even though Font outstruck him 2-1. The fourth goes to Chito Vera, even though Font barely outstruck him. The fifth I'd give to Rob Font. That's what I give the 3-2 for Chito Vera, giving him 2, 3, and 4. But just the way Marlon Vera is able to damage his opponents is fascinating. Now, is he going to be able to hit Dominick Cruz, though? Because if there's ever a guy in the UFC or in the bantamweight division's history that is harder to hit, or that's just hard to hit in general, is Dominick Cruz. Cruz's head movement, I mean, again, his way of fighting, his linear, footwork with his head movement on the line is just so interesting. It's different than what any UFC fighter has ever done, and, different than what any successful UFC champion has done. Dominick Cruz, I'll just say this right now, he's only lost 3 fights. They've all been world championship fights. One's to Henry Cejudo, UFC 249. The other's to Cody Garbrandt, the good Cody Garbrandt. And the other was for the WEC Featherweight Championship back in 2007 when he got subbed by Uriah Faber. The guy does not lose non-title fights. Now am I saying it can't happen? Obviously, no. This is a Dominick Cruz now who's 37 years old, reaching the end of his career, but he's fighting in his hometown. He fights out of Alliance MMA. He's one of the bigger fighters out of that gym in San Diego. I mean, it's a gym that features Angela Hill, Jessica Penne. Who else is there? I think Jeremy Stevens is there too. But I mean, again, he's fighting out of Alliance MMA. It's his home city, hometown, San Diego, getting the main event. The crowd's going to be on his side. Man, I mean, I just love this fight. It's just, can Marlon Vera hit Dominick Cruz, and can he hit him enough? Because Dominick Cruz will land on Marlon Vera. But the thing is, Cruz will land. It's just that, will Chito be able to counter? Because that's how it was in the Rob Font fight. Like, sometimes, okay, Font was looking really good. He was, hitting 1s and 2s. He was connecting on Vera. And I know Dominick Cruz has a different striking style than any other fighter in the weight class. It's just how it is. It's just how Dominick Cruz fights. He's not going to strike. He's not going to be as straight up as Rob Font's going to be with his 1s and 2s. Cruz will be in and out. He'll throw the left. He'll be in and out. He'll throw the big overhand rights, the unconventional right hand. Again, he'll be in and out. He'll use the foot move, the footwork, and he'll use his head movement to get out the way of all these strikes. Will it work against Marlon Vera? Well, it's worked against almost every guy he's fought. It's just, again, can Chito Vera crack the puzzle or crack the code? Can he, figure out this puzzle that Dominick Cruz is? Because if Chito lands, undoubtedly, he will be able to rock Dominick Cruz. Pedro Munoz was able to sit down Dominick Cruz in their fight in the first round. That's like, their first fight, or their fight at UFC 269 in the first round. You're like, oh my goodness, here we go. Munoz cracks him in the first. But Dominick Cruz responds, man. In the second round, he outstrikes Pedro. In the third round was his best round of the fight. Dominick Cruz wins the third round. He wins the fight 2-1. He got better as that fight progressed. And that's where I like the 5-round environment for Dominick Cruz here. We haven't seen Dominick Cruz in a 5-round fight since the Henry Cejudo fight. And he has not gone the full 5 rounds since he lost the world championship back in 2016 to Cody Garbrandt. But if Dominick Cruz wants to get back in the title picture, he's been more active, honestly, now than he's ever been in his entire career. Or actually, 2016 was pretty active. He was pretty active. But this is, a pretty active Dominick Cruz we're seeing at the later run of his career. If he wants to be back in that world championship contention, he's going to have to show that he can go 5 rounds at this age, and he can do it against an elite level guy like Marlon Vera. Like, there's nothing wrong about beating Casey Kenny in a 3-round fight, but there's a difference in doing that to going fighting a top 5 elite heavyweight. You only got to beat Sean O'Malley so far. And again, the Pedro Munoz one's huge for Dominick Cruz. I cannot stress that enough. Him beating Pedro Munoz is an incredible win. It's such a huge win. It showed that, okay, he is still one of the elite level guys in this weight class. But now you get Chito Vera, who Cruz can hit 1,000,000 times. Will he be able to put away Marlon Vera? Probably not. Dominick Cruz does not usually win by knockout. The last time he knocked anybody out, and the only time he knocked anybody out in the UFC, it was the Takeya Mizugaki win, UFC 178. It was on the prelims. He was a minus 600 favorite. Of course he won that fight. That's the only time Dominick Cruz got a finish in the UFC. Before that, you got to go all the way back, I think, to the pre-WEC days. At least listed his other last knockout win was at catchweight 150 against Josh Donahue when he won over at RITC 74 in your face, where he finished him in the second round. This is not how Dominick Cruz fights. Dominick Cruz does not fight to knock anybody out. He'll knock you down, but he probably won't finish you. It's just that's how Dominick fights. Pedro Munoz comes there and knock your head off. I mean, again, you look at the fights Pedro Munoz had recently, the Frank Yeager fight. Now, that's a closer fight than you'd think it would be for Marlon Vera. It just is. Yeager outstrikes him. But the thing is, in most Chito fights, he will get outstruck because he is always looking for that big power shot. And that's how Chito in a 5-round environment wins rounds, obviously, right? Because you look at the Rob Font fight, or even, we'll talk about the Frank Yeager fight real quick. Chito drops the first round, by far. Yeager outstrikes him, Yeager out-wrestles him. The second round, you can say is competitive as well. I think the judges gave it to Chito Vera, but you can make the argument that Frank Yeager maybe wins that second round, and obviously the third was looking like it was going in the direction of Chito Vera, and then of course he scored the front kick knockout at the end of that fight. But again, Chito's always going to rely on that one big shot. When you look at the Rob Font fight, again, when Font, even in the 5th round, right, where Chito isn't able to connect on that one big power shot, you know, Marlon's able to win, Rob Font's able to win that 5th round. He outstrikes Chito Vera by a pretty far margin. Again, Chito doesn't throw the volume that Rob Font did in that fight, but I think in that sort of sense, Rob Font's kind of similar to Dominick Cruz in the point where Cruz's volume will be on the same level as Rob Font's volume. Again, they're not the same fighter. In any stretch of the imagination, Rob Font and Dominick Cruz are not the same fighter just because the way they strike and their style of striking is not the same. Again, Rob Font's more straight up. Dominick Cruz is always moving in his fight, and that's, you know, again, Dominick does not get tired. Rob Font has a pretty good gas tank, a pretty good cardio as well, but it's not on the level of Dominick Cruz's. At least the Dominick Cruz that last fought in a 5-round fight, or last time he went a full 5 rounds, back in 2016, December 30th, when he fought Garbrandt, right? But even in that Rob Font fight against Marlon Vera, Vera's able to, you know, knock him down in rounds 2, 3, and 4. But in the 5th, Font comes back. Again, he needed a finish in that 5th round, but even in that 5th round, Rob Font outstrikes Marlon Vera. He doesn't get hit with that one big power shot, and he wins the round. Okay, I think Dominick Cruz. But okay, I want to say that favors Dominick Cruz, but I don't think Dominick Cruz has got the chin Rob Font's got. I don't think he's got it. I mean, again, Dom's pretty old now. Dom's 37. He was able to bounce back after getting hit once big time by Pedro Munoz. He's able to pop back up to his feet. The Henry Cejudo fight, again, the whole, you know, I was getting up thing with alcohol and cigarettes. Our guy, of course, in the no-nonsense, Keith Peterson. He was getting back up in that fight. You know, I would like to see that fight continue. I think, again, he was probably losing that fight against Cejudo. He's probably going to go lose it. The first round I give it to Cejudo. The second round is going to Cejudo. I mean, Dom's probably going to have to win those last 3 rounds to win the fight. But you never know, obviously, right? But I worry a little bit about Dom's chin, just considering in his last 4 fights he's been knocked down 4 times. Twice by Garbrandt, once by Cejudo, once by Munoz. But I mean, I don't think Dom's going to get finished. I think he'll be able to pop back up to his feet. It's just a matter of, will we get one of those fights again like the like the Vera and Font fight where it's just Vera repeatedly dropping him. Cruz is able to bounce back up to his feet, similar to the Garbrandt fight where, okay, Cruz is out striking Cody, but Cody's still landing those big power shots and Cody's the one putting him down every time, you know, Dom gets back up. And that was, again, the best Cody Garbrandt you were ever going to see. I'll make the case Dom maybe wins that fight. I mean, I think in a rewatch it gets more interesting, but it's just, I still think Cody wins, but I'll make the case that maybe you give that fight to Dom, or at least it's closer than a lot of people think it is. But it's Dom going 0-for-7 in his takedowns in that fight and just wasn't able to take Garbrandt down. It's just Cody just kind of playing with them. It makes it hard for you to, you know, say that Dominick Cruz wins that fight. But I mean, I can make the case you give the first to Dominick, you can even give the second to Dominick, maybe even give the third, the fifth maybe too. I mean, the second's obviously a huge Cody Garbrandt round, but I think that fight is really how people remember it, just because you see the highlights of Cody Garbrandt, like it's prime Cody Garbrandt. It's the best Cody Garbrandt that's ever been seen, where he's, you know, he's mocking Dom for, you know, slipping. He's mocking Dom after he knocks him down, where he could have finished him maybe in the 4th. I just think people remember that fight so fondly because of how good Garbrandt was. When you watch it back, it's just really the 4th round. I mean, and that's a discussion for another day, but I don't think Dom was all that bad in that fight. He really wasn't. But that's, you know, again, that's got nothing to do with the Marlon Vera fight. right? I mean, you look at the Edgar fight, you look at the Font fight when he beat Stevie Grant. Again, he takes him down. I don't think you're going to see Chito do all that. We lose to Jose Aldo. That's, Marlon's most recent loss. It's in December of 2020. It's not the greatest fight. I mean, Jose Aldo was able to take him down, and that's how he won the fight in the third round. He really just out-grappled Chito, just took him down and held him down. Nothing really happened in the third round. It's just, Jose out-grappling him. Then you get the first round, I think, to Jose, too, and then that's how you give him the fight. But, I mean, could we see Dominick Cruz do that? I don't think so. I think Dom's going to attempt to take down. Dom is going to shoot that blast double that he always throws. Like, he always shoots out there. Dom will throw that, or Dom will attempt that at least one time in this fight. And again, maybe he'll land it like he did against Munoz, but Munoz, as soon as Dom got it, Munoz popped right back up to his feet, and we're back to the striking fight. So, I mean, I think we'll see Dom attempt it. Do I think he'll have too much success just holding Chito down? I don't think so. So, it's just the volume out of Dominick Cruz. Can Cruz win this by decision, or can Chito knock him out, or can Chito just keep putting damage on him to Dominick Cruz, where Cruz isn't able to, be the same guy like he was early in the fight, and can Chito win rounds by that? I mean, obviously he can win rounds by knocking down Cruz. Can he keep doing it? I'm going to say he's going to knock down Dominick Cruz 1 point in this fight, but I think Dominick Cruz is going to get back up, and I think Dominick Cruz is going to win this by decision. I'm going to go 3 rounds to 2 Dominick Cruz in this fight. I do not know when Chito Vera is going to land that knockdown. I think Dom's going to win the first. I think Dom's going to win the second. I think Chito's going to win the third. I think Chito's going to win the fourth, and I think Dominick Cruz is going to come back in the fifth, and I think he's going to win it by decision. I do like the gas tank out of Dominick Cruz. I like the all-around striking out of Dominick Cruz. I think, again, his way of moving and his footwork and his head movement is different than what Chito has seen before. It's different than what Rob Font threw. Like, Rob Font, again, is a good striker. He doesn't move his head all that much, though, and he's kind of just a sitting duck for Chito to land on him. Dominick Cruz will be able to get out the way of strikes. Dominick Cruz, again, really get tagged, sure, and that's why I'm giving Chito rounds. Because Dominick, again, has got really good head movement, but he's always been susceptible of just getting caught once. Like when, again, Cejudo caught him with the big knee. He was dropped, of course, by Pedro Munoz, and he was caught by Cody Garbrandt a couple times. I've seen it before. Yes, Cruz is able to get caught, but he's able to work back up to his feet. He's able to just pick right back up to where he started. Okay, I think Chito's going to win rounds by doing that. I think Chito will win the third. I think he maybe win the fourth. I think he might knock down Dom in both those rounds. But when it comes down to it, in a 10-9 scoring system, I'm going to take Dominick Cruz. This is not Singapore. This is not one championship style scoring fights where maybe, okay, if Dom's out striking him barely in those 3 rounds, but you're giving in a 10-9 system, he's got to win those rounds. In the one championship system, Chito could be doing more damage to Cruz in the third and fourth, and the damage in those 2 rounds are more significant than what Cruz will do in the other rounds. In one championship, you give the win to Marlon Chito Vera. In the UFC and any other really organization out there in North America, you're going to give the win to Dominick Cruz because Dominick Cruz will do enough in those rounds to win the fight, right? I'm going to take Dominick Cruz by unanimous decision here. I think I wouldn't say it's a controversial pick, but I think it's a pick that not a lot of people are going to be picking this week. I'm going to trust the Dominator. Dominick Cruz is my guy. I've been a big fan of Dominick Cruz for a while, so take the pick with a grain of salt. But I'm going to be taking the plus 160 underdog here in Dominick Cruz. Again, the guy's only lost title fights so far. He's only lost them to the elite level guys in Cody Garbrandt, in Henry Cejudo, in Uriah Faber. Chito Vera does not train at Team Alpha Male, so I do like that. Of course, he's Oyama over there in Irvine. We'll see what happens, man, but I'm going to be taking the Dominator here. I'm going to go Dominick Cruz to win this one by unanimous decision. I think he'll do just enough. I think Dominick Cruz, will he get the title shot? I don't know, but I think he's going to stake his claim for a title shot after this. There is a way for him to get a title shot. Don't get me wrong. It's a pretty specific method for Dominick Cruz to get the next title shot, but I'll tell you exactly what it is. Aljamain Sterling beats TJ Dillashaw. Okay, he retains the championship. Sean O'Malley loses to Piotr Jan, so they can't give Jan a third fight against Aljo. Aldo loses to Merab Dvalishvili, so that means Merab, unlike Aljo's original plan of saying, okay, I'm going to vacate the belt and go up to 45, Merab says, no, you hold on the belt, and this has been discussed. Merab goes down to 125. He goes to fight the winner of Figueiredo. Actually, hell, now have him go fight Pantoja. Let Pantoja do something, and the winner of that fight with Merab and Pantoja goes and fights Moreno and Davison after their 4th fight. And then the Song Yadong Corey Sandhagen fight really doesn't matter for a title contention fight. So that's how Dominick Cruz gets the title fight. If Sterling wins, if Jan wins, if Merab wins, and Merab decides to go back down or go down for the first time to 125. That's how you get the title shot for Dominick Cruz. It's a very, it's a pretty direct path that Dominick needs to have. He needs a lot of stuff to go his way, but it could happen. It could definitely happen. And Am I banking on it? No, but I mean, it could happen. So Dominick Cruz, though, I'm going to have to beat Marlon Chito Vera. I think he gets it done by decision. And I think Dom, the Dominator, again, it shows you why he's still one of the greatest. And he is, of course, the greatest bantamweight of all time. And he's going to show it this weekend. So Dominick Cruz wins at home in San Diego, California, 48-47. Give this man another title shot. I want to see it. So we're going with the Dominator to win, again, by decision. And folks, thank you all for watching our UFC Vera versus Cruz full card predictions here on the channel. We'll be back next week from Salt Lake City, Utah. Of course, the main event for the welterweight championship of the world. You got Kamaru Usman taking on Leon Edwards. Of course, you got Murzakanov taking on Jose Aldo. And you got Luke Rockhold versus Bohachinha in Paulo Costa. And then later this week, of course, or tomorrow, we will have our Bellator predictions. In the main event, you've got Yamuchi versus Neiman Gracie, and then of course Okoji Yamuchi taking on Neiman Gracie, and then in the PFL we've got the Red King fighting. We'll see what happens with Rory McDonald. He has not been great recently. Actually, Bo Nickel fights on Tuesday too for the Contender Series. Not gonna be doing a video on that, but just I thought I'd throw that out there. But of course, you've got that card. I believe it's in Wales. Rory McDonald and Magomed Umlatov in the main event. And then you got the heavyweights. Of course, you got 170s and the heavyweights. But the heavyweights, you got Ante Delia taking on Henan Fahey. You got Dennis Goltsov versus Matthias Scheffel. And then the other 170 fight, you got the Swedish Denzel Washington, Sabadusi, taking on Carlos Leal. So be on the lookout for both of those videos of Bellator and PFL coming up tomorrow. Give a stand for watching. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more. Leave a like if you did enjoy the video. If I stay up for watching. And Mamba forever.